Welcome you guys to the NAL quarterly talking circle. So just to remind you folks that this year our talking stick sessions are going to be moving to quarterly. So this will be our October, our first quarter talking circle, and they are increasing to 9 minutes because we are only meeting once a quarter. And so it will give us more time and hopefully not feel rushed. Although there will be a whole quarter worth of information to share out to make sure that you folks are ready for any maybe deadlines or work coming up. So let's go ahead and get disclaimed. Sarah, did we did record already, right?
Yes, we have it
Okay.
up and running.
Alrighty. Let's get disclaimed.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
Awesome. So now that we're disclaimed, let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be doing some announcements, budget, talking about budget revisions and APR updates. We're going to be looking at some null stats that I was able to put together from the APRs that were submitted earlier this year or in the first year. And then it'll be time for you folks to have some time to discuss. We're going to be talking about and discussing professional development. And then at the end, we'll kind of go over the coming events happening between now and the next talking circle. Um, so let's get started. Oh, so you folks know that right now that Dr. Donna Sabis Burns is your interim program officer. She's not with us today, but she'll be attending regularly in the future. And I'm Olani. I'm with the OIE Technical Assistance Team. So let's get into the APR updates. This is just to remind you that these are updates related to the APR that you submitted in May of 2021. A lot of you folks had reported 999, which means that you were anticipating the data coming at the end of the grant period. And so now here's your opportunity to fill in that data that you reported 999. There are a required form, which is the ED 524B. You're only doing Section A. And so what you should be changing in Section A is filling in the data, the ratio numbers for the what you reported 999, both on your GEPRA as well as your project measures, and then updating that narrative section at the bottom of each of those charts, of each of those measures. So you really want to relook at those and sort of fill in what was accomplished between May and October. The due date for that is Friday, October 29th. That information you should email directly to the OIE at seiservices.com. And what we're going to be doing is putting together all of that information. Again, particularly the GEPRA, that gets reported to Congress. And so those are some really important measures, as well as your project measures really give us some insight into the progress that you're making in your project. So again, you want to make sure you note this down, October 29th, email to OIE at seiservices.com. And you can, October 29th is the due date. You can go ahead and submit it earlier if you'd like to get that sort of off your plate and on to focusing on the new year. Are there any questions about that? No? Okay, awesome. You guys are on it. Okay, so this is what the ED 524B Section A form looks like. You want to look up here at this top and make sure you have the most updated form. You'll notice that the most updated form has the expiration date of July 30. Oh, sorry, July 31st, 2024. So that's the form you want to make sure that you can access. And let's see, I think, oh, there it goes. Sarah just put the form into the chat, so you can get it from there. Again, you're going to fill that out and send that directly to OIE at seiservices.com. Now here is the performance measures. You're going to, of course, you're going to have your GEPRA and then your project measures. And you're going to, anything that has a 999, you want to make sure you're putting the data that you've collected from since the end of the year. So this is really what you want to look at. We had gone over this a little bit the last session, but this is as it relates to your APR update reminders. Please submit all GEPRA and project objectives. Now, the project objectives should come and be verbatim from your previous year's APR. Okay, those don't change now, as well as the GEPRA. The GEPRA, you should have the wording be exactly the same. Do not include any new objectives, just the ones that you submitted in May. And this includes an updated explanation of progress. So again, on the bottom where you have the explanation of progress, you want to, even if maybe you completed the data, if there was any new work done, you want to go ahead and add that information into your explanation of progress in all of your project measures. Now your GEPRA, again, remember, we shouldn't see anything in the target columns, okay? So nothing in raw, number, ratio, or the percentage. What we will be seeing you update in GEPRA is this ratio column in actual performance data. Okay, so that's all that should be completed. Now, when it comes to your project measures, you should have updated information in your ratio section, as well as both in the target as well as the actual performance. Now, really, the target one, because you're updating, should probably remain the same because it's the same target, but you should probably be revising what you're reporting in the actual performance data, because maybe it was attendance, for example. You were looking at attendance in your native language program versus, sort of the overall attendance that you're capturing and reporting in the GEPRA. You wouldn't have collected that performance, that data until the end of the year. And so this is where you may have reported 999. This is where you want to complete it as it relates to your project measures. Are there any questions about that? Okay. Again, I want to reiterate, GEPRA, I think this is a great visual. Nothing in target, just putting the information in the actual performance data section. Okay, let's move on. Again, these are due October 27th. You will email them to oie at seiservices.com. I can't reiterate that enough. And again, please, if you have it done already and you've collected that information already, please go ahead and send that as soon as possible and get that off your plate. Any questions? All right, moving on. Now we have the year 2 budgets and thinking about our budget, submitting a budget revision. So let's get into that. So each grantee is required to submit a year 2 budget revision. Now, as you looked over your GANs, you may have noticed that you have carryover funds. There may be a switch in the amount because of those carryover funds. So you really want to look at that and adjust your budget to make sure it matches that total amount. Excuse me. And then you also want to use the updated annual optional budget form. This budget revision is due Wednesday, November 17th. And this will go to be sent via email to Donna. Okay? And the form that you'll be using is the NAL ED optional budget revision form. And let's see, I think I had that in the chat. I will, oh, there we go. Sarah's got it. She just put that in the chat. Thank you, Sarah, for you folks to be able to access. Again, put this down in your calendar. Make sure you make a note that this one goes emails to Donna, and I'll share her email in just a sec. Also, if you have this done already, go ahead and submit it beforehand. There's nothing, wrong. Again, getting that off your plate, making sure that all your program people and your fiscal office know what the budget is moving forward so you can start to expend those funds. That is the goal. Again, this is due Wednesday, November 17th. And you will email it right there. You see Donna's email at the bottom. Make sure you capture that, donna.sabis-burns@ed.gov. And that'll go directly to her, and she will be in conversation with you regarding your budget revision. Now, between this talking circle and this November due date, if you have any questions regarding your budget revision, you can go ahead and you can join office hours. There will be an office hours in between these two dates. And you can also contact us, and we'd be glad to sort of help you with any questions you have regarding your budget revision, as well as your APR update. Are there any questions about that? Let's get a little bit into the budget revision, the budget revision and what it looks like. So again, you'll be going to your GANs section, looking at block number 7, and this is what it looks like. And you will be looking at this action, which is the amount, then the budget period, and then the performance period. Okay, so you'll be looking for those numbers. This is the optional budget form. What you'll be putting here in this sort of like tan shaded area is your existing grant budget that you have, including the carryover, and then which will give you the total existing budget. Now, if there's any changes that you want to make, so for example, maybe in your existing budget, you have a lot in travel. And let's say, you're just sort of projecting that you're not going to be doing the travel you thought you were going to be doing. Or maybe you are going to be able to go ahead and do it. And so you want to increase that amount. And maybe let's say you purchased a lot of supplies last year, and so you're not going to need to be, purchasing the same amount of supplies. And so you want to move funds from supplies to travel. This is where, in this green section, this is where you want to put those budget changes. Okay. Under personnel, you would be putting your expenditures regarding the positions, as well as fringe, all the different types of fringe. These goes under this budget category. Your travel, any equipment, supplies, contractual, maybe you're hiring someone to help you develop a curriculum or an assessment. You want to put that here. And then any other purchases. Sometimes, most of you folks have indirect costs, so it might not be in there, but maybe there's some other expenses that aren't captured in these above categories. You want to go ahead and put each of those line items in. Are there any questions? Okay. The other thing here that is really important is this narrative section, explaining, the reason for the budget revision. Again, maybe it's like, we want to go and do maybe a cross-cultural language workshop with our teachers or with our students maybe, or we want to do a language camp, and so maybe we've added that in, and we want to put the justification for the budget revision in this narrative section. So really take time to flesh that out. Again, if Donna has any questions, I'm sure she will contact you to maybe fill in or provide more information. So, again, are there any questions?
I just had one and I sent in the chat, but
Oh,
would you mind sending the PowerPoint to me so I can just so I can relay the same information to our grant coordinator too?
sure. So usually after the session, um, we respond. We'll send. We'll do the recording. Send the recording along with the PowerPoint. Yeah. So you can share that with your fiscal office or whoever needs to be involved with that. Okay. Cool. Anything else? Okay. Well, again, this is your talking circle. So, if you have a question or you want to make a comment, go ahead and raise your hand or just come off mute and go, hey, Olani, I got something to say. Let me know. Okay. So I did have the great opportunity, and I mean that, to be able to look through your APRs, and so I wanted to sort of show that at least for me and for the OIE team, it's not just an APR. There is actually some really good data that we can glean from it as to relate to sort of the impact that this program has around native languages. And so I wanted to share that so you can get an overview of really the amazing work and the impact that NAL is having as it relates to preservation and maintenance of language and what we glean from the APRs. So right now, NAL is preserving and maintaining 15 native languages across from Alaska all the way over to Minnesota. And just based on some base numbers, again, because this is taken from May, you are educating 2,047 native language learners in grades pre-K through 12. So I know that's probably a low number, again, because of COVID and because of it being in May. You probably included and had more students participating. And again, those are only the students. That's not including the professional development that you're doing or even the family work that you folks are doing as related to the language. So that's really amazing. Of course, here's your GEPRA. We're looking at, your GEPRA is looking at proficiency in native language, progress in learning in native language, also making the connection between native language and academic success for students, and then also native language and, just sort of the interest of kids being in school and then wanting to be in school because they're learning something that is relevant and meaningful to them. I'll go through here. So when we look at the GEPRA measure on proficiency and progress, what you'll see is just sort of what was reported. And so you'll see, if you look at the dark brown section, those are what was reported as being there was going to be no data available this year under language proficiency. And then when you look at that dark red circle, that's the 999s that were reported regarding proficiency. And then that blue sort of piece of the pie is those programs that reported that they were not going to meet the language proficiency. Okay, so we can go over again to the progress. As you can see, there's a big chunk of this pie that are 999s. And then that dark brown section with 17%, those are the ones that we're not going to be providing data as it relates to language progress. You can see here that 8% have met their measure for language progress, and then another 17% will not be meeting their measure for language progress. The great thing about these GEPRA is that you get to determine what language proficiency and language progress is. So while you have to report this, it is based on what you are deeming met, not met, and not met. Any questions about that or comments? And that's why, I mean, you can see this, the large red shaded 999 area means, we're going to be getting a lot of great data in. And when we get that data, I'll review and renew this data so that we can actually look at it and see the tremendous work that you folks are doing. Then when we look at the GEPR measures around academic improvement and attendance, again, has a lot to do about the time of the year in which the APRs are due. So you notice that the large red section of piece of the pie is, the 999. So we anticipate that 999, that'll be going away as far as a piece of pie, and we'll be able to see more around whether the data was even available. I know a lot of, some of you were basing academic performance or academic increase based on state standardized tests, and some of the states, because of COVID, opted not to do the standardized tests, or it's sort of like hit and miss. And so that may be changing, and you may not have the data because your state decided not to use that. Again, in that area, both the academic increase and attendance, how you measure what that measuring tool, again, is dependent on you and how you are measuring increase and the attendance. Any questions or thoughts? Okay, well, let's move on. So a lot of the grant activities that you are engaged in are direct language instruction, curriculum development, assessment creation and implementation, engaging a lot of families based on, really the value that the more language a student gets both in and out of the school helps develop language. And so that's why you want to have families involved, as well as elder engagement, right? Going back to that source of the language from native speakers is really critical to maintaining not just, and don't want to say not just, but maintaining an academic native language versus an everyday living language. And then also, you folks have been doing some work on professional development as well. Again, your speakers are only good as your teachers, right? And so building and strengthening your teachers, whether it's in language acquisition or actually teaching skills and instructional strategies. Was there anything that you folks are doing that may not be covered in this, in any of these primary grantee activities, sorry? Or maybe you sort of blended the two together? Thoughts?
I think with our grant with Naval Preparatory School, our primary focus was curriculum development. But under the position I'm doing I'm doing all of this.
Yeah.
And we're blending it together, and we're trying to create, a really good curriculum where we transition our students to the post-secondary level and try to get our students to get college credit in the language courses.
Nice.
One of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a program where interested, highly motivated students can transition into a post-secondary, specifically a teacher program teaching the language, but no such program exists currently. And so trying to figure out, talking with our local college, San Juan College, and they're in the talks now. This little ball that we started here is starting to roll with San Juan College, and even with the University of New Mexico. They have a program, but it's not an actual degree program. And so I'm in conversations with them to try to get something going specifically for teachers teaching the Navajo language at elementary and secondary levels. So
that's great. That's that's professional development, tenfold, right? I mean, which is great, and getting them not just professional development, but getting them the degree along with it, right? So they can
Yeah.
go out. Because yeah, as you grow your program with students, you need to grow your teachers too, right? So that you have enough.
Hmm. Yeah, and
Awesome.
we're trying to transition our students because we have like two really highly motivated students that want to be Navajo language teachers.
Mhm.
But how do we transition them after high school to continue that language learning?
Yeah.
The other thing too that I'm looking at is I'm working with an app company, and we're going to start getting ready soon to do that family language support. Because one of the things is, even though Navajo is there's a lot of resources out there, we're trying to get targeted resources for our students.
Yeah.
So, narrowing the focus for our students, but also for the community and the world in general. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing here. That's what I'm doing.
Awesome. Is Navajo on Duolingo? I remember I
Yeah,
recall.
it's on Duolingo, Rosetta Stone. There are a few apps.
Yeah.
They're all limited, and they have a lot of potential, but also limiting.
Mm.
The app that I'm going to help to create will be specifically focused to student learning
Oh, okay.
and high school vocabulary building.
Yeah.
In the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have, I think the Lakota language program has a really good app that they have. I don't know, I don't remember the name, but I was looking through theirs, and
Yeah.
it's really detailed. It is beautiful. I think it's more detailed than Rosetta Stone for the
Wow.
Lakota language. But that's one of the things that we're going to work to, in the next 3 to 5 years, is try to get Navajo, and that curriculum will go alongside what we're teaching in the classroom.
Nice. Really nice. And that family engagement piece too, right? I mean, getting the more language you can have in different places, the better. Does anyone else want to share what they're doing as it relates to maybe any of these primary activities or maybe something else that you are working on?
Hi, this is Alana.
Hi, Alana.
We're kind of at a standstill here. Our COVID cases just kind of rose kind of fast like. So I'm hesitant to to be on community basis with anybody. But our students are still going to school. Um, they were doing 2 days in school and then 2 days virtual this week, but next week it might change. They might go back to full time. I don't know. It just depends because they seem to think that the students are falling behind on their uh, regular classes. So I'm just kind of waiting to see what's going to go on. But I am planning like our community, the deer skinning presentation and preparing of the meat, and then doing a choke cherry pudding making class.
Yeah.
And my teachers, the principal and the vice principal are very supportive. So on Monday, one of the teachers will be going in there also in the school and teaching the choke cherry pudding at school for the teachers there, or whoever
Nice.
wants to join them. We're just kind of doing it in little groups.
Yeah.
So to keep the social distancing right now.
Yeah.
And then curriculum development, we're just kind of working on what we're gathering already. Working on assessment yet. And then I'm trying to set up some Zoom with the tribal IT department, and she hasn't gotten back to me yet. So we'll see how that goes in another week or so.
Awesome. So you're moving. Sorry, you're moving forward. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
And then we've got our teachers certified, so we're
Awesome.
working on those degrees, hopefully.
Good for you. Good for you guys. Awesome. So you're continuing to work on your assessment?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, we really didn't know how to go about it because the teachers, they were only allowed in there certain days.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it come to a standstill because there were two teachers that I understand didn't like to have their class interrupted. So we're doing what is called push-in classes, where they get 45 minutes of class time, the teacher's class time, but they all have it on different days. And then we have the 21st century, which is the after school program, where some of the some days is when the teachers will go in and do like a cultural activity with them, but using the language. So it just varies, and we're just kind of winging it here. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kind of got to go with the flow, right? With the whole open, closed, and hybrid and all of that.
Yeah.
Flexibility is the.
Yeah. So I'm hoping the Zoom would get up soon. That way we can do it like about 5:30 or whatever, and then, progress from there.
Yeah. Well, good. Anyone else?
I can step in. I'm Helen Clark from the Yukon-Kaikuk School District. And it's hard. I held off because it's hard for me to speak for Ketsu Susan. She's just, she is integral in our district in terms of implementation, but she's actually out in about today picking up pieces of our curriculum materials where, so let me step back. We've, through her leadership, have created 3 language workbooks that span an entire year's worth of instruction and focus on different dialects of the Athabascan language. And this year we're focusing on increasing the number of video and sound recordings we have of her and other elders and other speakers of the languages, of the dialects, so that there are the samples, because we can't clone Susan. I wish the project allowed for that amount of technology. But one of the things we're almost done with, what she's picking up, are she and the team have created a game, a classroom game for practicing cultural phrases and names of animals. And the kids have been doing it in sort of makeshift ways, where they've been making their own game boards and using animal pieces for a couple years now. But she's got a very professional, high quality game about to go to print, and she's picking up the mock-up of that, and I cannot wait to see it. Yeah. I would say that we are involved in all of those things, but the main focus has been on the direct language instruction. Susan teaches 19 class sessions a week related to that, and it's just, we're fortunate in our district, in our 9 schools, it's just built into the class schedule for the day. She's involved in setting the class schedules for the day at the schools at the beginning of the year, so it's just a time period that's dedicated every day. And then the curriculum development, taking it to that next level with some practice pieces, another workbook, the video and the audio recordings, and then continuing to tweak the assessment year to year. I think she's, is my understanding, going back to more how we did it last year, tried some new, when she first developed it, we did some tweaks last year that we didn't like. And so going back, and then through a partnership with another grant, we're starting to really increase the family and community engagement support through these culture camps, and having Susan tie in the language to the cultural experiences. So it's really, I'm loving getting to know this project and so impressed with Ketsu. So
yeah, exciting stuff. Exciting, a nice way to use another grant to sort of pull in, and connect the language into other resources. So exciting, exciting.
We're
So
even
those are three dialects, right? Not three separate languages.
3 dialects,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I got that right.
Well, 3 dialects of an Athabascan language, and then the fourth is very different, and we're having trouble. We just don't have a lot of speakers of the language, and so it's not quite as far along as the other.
Yeah. Well, even more important, right? Thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's move. So we're gonna be doing more. We from our previous uh, talking circles. The conversation about professional development. We kept sort of touching on it, but not sort of diving deep into it. So right now, we're gonna take this opportunity to sort of spend some time and share and learn from each other as it relates specifically to professional development. And so one of the first questions, and we can just go around since there's, just a few of us, everyone maybe just share, how do you determine your areas of focus as it relates to professional development? I
I can share.
Okay.
So with Naval Preparatory School, I did a beginning of the year for our new staff cultural sensitivity and awareness training, and we had about, I think it was like 25 staff in attendance.
Wow.
So we went over questions that opened up really a good discussion, and within our administrative team, with the academic team, the teachers, it started to um, there's a need. So it seems like monthly, I feel like I'm doing some type of training or resource for for our staff. And just recently, we had a cultural activity where we walked up and hiked to the like a sacred sites in the mountains, and just creating a 7-page PDF PowerPoint for our
Yeah.
staff, I think was a really good resource for them. And I also had other links, other video links, and other additional information that they could look through themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we've done. And for us, I think it's coming up on an as need basis right now.
I see.
So, but I think later on, I attended the National JOM Association conference, and in one of their sessions, they talked about culturally responsive education and having a toolkit. And
Yeah.
so now I think from here until January, February, I'm going to create that toolkit for our school so we can share it with not just within our school, but to our community as well.
Nice. That's a great That's a great idea, and that hike is a great piece to it, right? I mean, really getting um, teachers to know the area that they're living and working in is important. Um, we have a a teacher training program that goes into the Department of Education for the state of Hawaii, and it's around culture, and they actually take them out to like the places that are connected in their community and tell them like the stories and the importance. They learn the wind names, the rain names, the mountain names, all of that to really sort of ground the teachers. And they are not just Hawaiians, they're like all different races, but no matter who you are, what race you are, that's still important. So that's a great activity, and I love the whole idea of creating your toolkit. Others who want to share, like, how do you determine, um, where you sort of focus your energy as it relates to professional development?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Alana. I'll go after you.
Okay. For us, we've been like doing the activities, like basic skill activities.
Mm.
We've been bringing in song and dance, and then just different kind of life skill, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's helped but like I said, it's limited for us because we're such a tiny community, only maybe about 1,500 people, and we just kind of have to respect one another and just not like go out there and say, okay, we're going to do this. We got to, make sure we're out in the open air, because we don't want to be in the buildings with the kids or,
Right.
people where they are stuck inside and, with this COVID. So we're kind of, right now, since it's getting colder, I don't know how we're going to keep going unless we do 6 to a room. We've even talked about doing like maybe a family, just like a family group of 6 or 7, limit it to each, each family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard you saying earlier when we were talking about in the last sort of sharing piece that you were going in. I'm sorry, I forget. There was it was a berry activity or something, a jam that you were going into with the teachers and teaching them how to make that.
Yes. And there's not, I think there's only like, there's probably maybe 8 that are going to do this activity.
Yeah.
And the kitchen where we're doing it at is at the home economics room in the school, which is a big wide room.
Yeah.
So we'll probably be all safely, social distance there. But we're going to do it from like top to bottom, from the beginning, preparing it and how we wash it, how we take it, cook it, and make it. It's gonna be yummy.
Yeah, yeah, sounds like it. I know. Well, you made me hungry when you mentioned it earlier.
We just need pan bread.
Oh, well, my favorite. And have you? Is your expectation that the teachers would then be able to do this with the students?
Yes.
Awesome.
Be able to like show the students, how to prepare it. And then the following Saturday is when we're going to do it for the community. So, they'd be able to do it with their kids.
Yeah.
And people are excited, but they at first they were excited, but now they're kind of just like, when is this going to happen? Because like I said, COVID's a barrier.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get this Zoom thing up so I can actually show them how to prepare it, maybe on Zoom. But the only thing is our elders doesn't want it recorded. A lot of things they don't want recorded. And so it's kind of hard to like overstep that boundary because, you respect your elders and you don't want to show them what things that you shouldn't show or whatever. But I've told them, this choke cherry pudding is all over the web.
Yeah, true.
Well, and Alana, I was going to jump in and tell you, we had another grantee, I guess it was 2 years ago, that was having that exact same dilemma, that a number of the elders were fine with doing like some one-on-one teaching, but they didn't want anything formally recorded, and they didn't want to do the videos and the audio recordings. And one thing that helped with them was they ended up coming to kind of a compromise with them, that they would be able to record some certain things as long as it wasn't publicly put on the internet. It was kept private. It was just used like in a classroom setting with the kids. And that ended up being a compromise that worked for some of the content, that as long as they promised not to put it up publicly for just anybody to be able to access, some of the elders were a little more open to that. So
some of our elders are like that. They're okay with us doing it for ourselves and keeping it here, because a lot of them said, well, how are you going to protect us, our knowledge? How are you going to protect that from outsiders coming in and saying, oh, this is, and then taking it over, like saying, oh, this is our paint, this is what we do with that, or this is our medicine, this is what we do with that. Because we had a person go sell some of the medicine, and now it's out on the market. People picked it up and said, oh yeah, you can take this to prevent COVID or whatever. And it doesn't work like that. That medicine wasn't for that. Medicine is like strictly to get you out of your the stuffy head, you know, sore throat thing. It's not to take, it's not going to cure COVID. No.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah. But people are taking it as such, you know, those that found it like in the medical field, they're like, oh, you can take this, and then they're selling it, and you're like, no, it that's not how it works.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely, like you said, a balancing act, right?
Mhm.
To make
Yeah.
sure you're preserving the knowledge, but not making it so out there that people can uh, take it and make it their own, I guess, and abuse it or use it inappropriately.
Yeah. So I just like things, if I record somebody speaking, I won't show their face, or,
Yeah.
you know, I ask them permission, and then I'll record them. But just like I said, they don't want some of the language out there, because there's a lot of a lot of the language too defines, you know, certain things too. And so kind of got to be careful on what you want to present, or what you want them to speak about.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, in those activities that you're doing, you're also integrating the language learning in those activities.
Yes.
I
Yeah, a
see.
lot of it we speak in our own language. We get some of the elders to help us
Hmm.
to do it, but like I said, some of them, the first thing they ask is, are you gonna take my picture? Are you gonna record my voice? And I'm like, I have to say, well, if I can, and then they'll just tell me if they want to or not.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, okay, awesome, awesome. Let's see. Let's go on to the second sort of discussion point. What areas do you focus on for language development? I mean, so when you are working with, your teachers or your instructors, how do you select or plan out the focus areas for just language development, making sure that they're feeling confident in the language? What are you folks doing in that area?
I can probably speak on what we're doing with prep. So we have 4 language classes: Navajo 1, 2, 3, and we're gonna have Navajo 4 next year. And even though we stipulate language immersion, stop listening. These guys back here are all interested now.
That works.
Anyways, we're gonna start off beginning the year 20% and then go up to about 60% freshman year. So it's not full immersion, just because we understand we get a wide spectrum of students
Yeah.
from major cities, other tribal nations, and so we want to slow them, ease into it. Their second year, we're going to go again 30, 40%. By the end of the year, 60, 70. And so it's going to go all the way up to their senior year, where they'll be 50% beginning of the year to 100% at the end of the year.
Nice.
Each step of the way, Navajo 1 and 2 is going to focus on drills, memorization, really the structure of the language, the linguistic and grammatical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But Navajo 3 and 4 is going to be more the application,
Mm.
trying to apply the language in a community setting.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working on right now. And so we're easing the students. One of the things that we found is that, to fully become proficient in the language, especially one of our languages, it takes over 1,000 hours. And we sat there and I calculated, with the amount of class time that we have, we're only going to hit 200 hours
Mm.
over the span of four years with our students. And so we're trying to take every opportunity as much as we can and be focused and target how we can help our students, especially since in the beginning, a lot of our students are real hesitant. They're really
Yeah.
shy. They're really self-conscious about speaking. And, it's those systemic things that were put in place at home, boarding school, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so now we have our students here. They're starting to use the language more in their friend groups. I'm starting to
Nice.
see that more often. Every now and then you'll see random notes in Navajo here. And so, and that's just because of what we've done, um, targeting our students and trying to get them to speak the language and more, not just in a class setting, but within their own social friend groups.
Yeah. So, Karen, can I ask you a follow up question? I think that's like amazing at how you're going to sort of, bring them into an immersion setting like each year and increase that percentage. Are your teachers coming to you trained and ready to do that already? And if not, or if so, what is the professional? Do you need to provide any professional development around sort of shoring up and maybe making deeper their actual language?
So that's where my position was created to help with that. We do have one teacher that is certified through the Navajo Nation as a certified language teacher and through the state, but we're having a really difficult time finding qualified, highly motivated teachers. And so we do have one coming in January, but that's where, like, my position is to help guide those teachers, bring this curriculum, this generalized curriculum, and target it to where it's,
I see.
where there is focus in terms of this A comes first, B, C, and
Yeah.
D. One of the things that I was noticing is that we really like to assume as culture teachers that these students know this or they should know this.
Right.
And so there's a lot of scaffolding and there's a lot of a breakdown in the language
Yeah.
before we start to go to larger concepts. One of the ones that we always ask is, in the American language, you have who, what, why, when, where, and how. And now we've counted about 42 different questions
Yeah.
and different questionings, and so we have to break it down to A, B, C,
Yeah.
and try to break it down. And that's what we're doing, and it's taken a lot, but it is hard trying to find teachers that will teach with us
Yeah.
and that are willing to grow in their professional sense too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think, engaging them in that process is really like, that's professional development right there. Um, that's, that's great. I think that's important foundational work for your language program. So awesome. Awesome. Helen, how about you guys? What are you guys doing? Are you doing, or is Susan doing any work related to like, I know she is, around language development of the actual instructors?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really workbook focused. And in terms of like determining what areas to focus on for each of the workbooks, Susan started out with a committee from, high, mid, and low Yukon River regions to make sure that they had input on what do we want to focus on first, what do we want to focus on second, what's third. And so that created the workbooks. And then in professional development for the teachers, it's focusing on their own knowledge of the vocabulary, really. I mean, we're still at that basic piece, because our classroom teachers are, for the most part, our teachers. Through the grant this year, we were finally able to hire one specialist to support and to go into and to travel to the different schools to help, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's our classroom teachers. And so it's getting them to a comfortable level so that they can learn alongside the students. So that's where she focuses.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So she's really focusing on vocabulary and the use of the vocabulary.
Yeah, and incorporating phrases and into daily classroom life, and phrases to help with the cultural relevance as just in everyday lessons. So trying to get at least common phrases, just a normal part of classroom experience every day.
Nice. Really super nice. I love it. I mean, you guys are all working towards the same goal, but all doing it, differently for your communities, and it's great. What areas do you focus? Oh, I'm sorry. how do you create your professional development calendar? And so maybe the first question is, do you create a professional development calendar? And if so, how do you organize it? I know, for example, we did this arc of the year, and it had to do all with like establishing behavioral expectations to sort of like getting into the content, developing, getting kids ready and being able to sort of articulate how they're learning. And so our professional development followed that same arc in getting our teachers ready. So that's how we did it and how we organized our professional development calendar. I'm wondering, first of all, I guess, do you have one? And if so, how did you sort of like organize it and figure out when you were going to teach what and why you were going to teach it then? So maybe first question is, do you have a professional development program and calendar? And if so, how did you organize it? Or where did you come up with why you were working on certain strategies at certain times?
I'll pop in first this time.
Sure.
I would say this piece is a barrier for us, and our district's a barrier, but I'm working to support Susan in it. So our district has PLCs every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And Susan has requested time there. And yet it's so filled with all the quote unquote, the state requirements, the required trainings of this or that we can't fit in there. We also have a district-wide professional development once a month. And Susan requested time there. And again, it's full. It's full with, all the other things we're required to do. And here's what I love about Ketsu Susan. She's like, okay, fine. Then we offer classes and we pay credit for teachers to be involved. And then she's come up with ways as well. So we're offering, that's our professional development calendar is classes. That teachers can sign up for, and that students can sign up for alongside teachers. So that, this is beyond the school day. This is beyond. So that's one thing that she's done. And then I'm working with making sure that next year, at the very least, it's included as like a 5-minute piece of the Wednesdays, so that it's just, again, we're 94% of our students are Athabascan. We need to have some language pieces to at the very least sandwich our PLCs. I mean, we get that there's these required things to go, but we need to create that piece, and then time in the once a month. So we'll work on fixing that for next year. And for this year, we're doing it through classes. And then through, actually, another thing Susan does is she requires the teachers to stay for her time teaching the students. So the teachers are learning alongside as well, so that it's not a prep period for them.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. I love that no is the answer no for her is actually, well, I'll figure I'll figure out another way.
It's like, okay, there's a wall there, so I'll go over here. Okay, there's a wall there, so I'll go over here. And I love it. Yeah. And it's not that the district isn't supportive. Right. I believe the district is very supportive. It's just, especially in the second year of COVID, it's like everybody's overwhelmed. We can't add one more thing. And what we're trying to focus on is this aha moment with our district that Athabascan language isn't one more thing. Right. It just needs to be who we are. So we're working on it. It's a barrier for us, though.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, I think the more and more you do it, the more, 5 minutes here ends up into 30 minutes here, and as teachers become less stressed, and hopefully we, segue and move out into a more peaceful world, we can get more minutes on there. But awesome. I love her tenacity. Anyone else want to share? Maybe if you have a calendar. I think Helen was great in talking about the challenges that she has. And if you do have a calendar or not, maybe challenges. And if you do have a calendar, how you came up with that? How do you create your calendar around professional development for your instructors or teachers?
Ours, I guess, this is Alana. Ours was like setting it up in the school and then doing the push-in classes. And then if the teacher, right now, Lynn John is the vice principal, and she's in charge of over there at the school for the language program. So she's helping alongside me, and she's having the teacher that is in the classroom watching the teachers and speaking like along with them, so that when she's doing her regular classes, she can just say the words to them to remind them kind of how to, what to say and whatever for like pencil or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we figured if you kind of keep repeating, people remember. Kids will remember they're smart. Yeah, so that's how we've done our calendar so far, and then we just squeeze in the other activities after school or on the weekend, or sometimes it just depends.
Great. Great. I think really like Helen was saying, like having the teachers along while you're teaching helps. I mean, like you said, even if they get pencil, right? And use that, the students are hearing it more and more, which is, and in different settings too.
I mean, we never had those words before, like pencil
Right.
and paper, but along the years, people been our language people have been coming up with words.
Right.
So this year, one of my teachers said, "What do we call a computer?" And we're trying to figure out, well, let's make up a word.
Yeah.
Because
Boy,
it's up to date, and that's what kids like. They like updated stuff. So
yeah.
so it's kind of interesting to probably develop a new word here or there.
Yeah. I can't tell you how much debate in the Hawaiian language community there was over what is the appropriate word for the appropriate term for computer, versus, just sort of like Hawaiianizing the word computer, or really looking at what the function of the computer is and then finding the proper word. There was a whole issue about that. But it's something, it's what happens when you have a living language. The language needs to grow, and so great work, you guys. Great work. Anyone else want to share their calendar, how they come up with it?
So I can speak on ours. So like I said, ours is on a as need basis. But I know Alana said that trying to get trying to get access to it. And I know Helen, you were talking about even with our school, you have the state, you have district, you have all these PLCs that are necessary. And so and come January, I'm going to create through our school's learning management systems called Schoology. I'm just going to create a folder and just be like, here's teacher PD. If you want to look at it, here's a 5-10 minute video.
Nice.
Here's the resources. One of the things that was needed that came up was, what are some topics that may be taboo, quote unquote taboo, and that teachers may need to be careful about when selecting units or lessons in their classrooms. So that was one that came up that I'm currently working on right now.
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah, awesome, you guys. I mean, it's just really great to hear. I hope you're sort of getting some insights from your peers. The last sort of question is, as it relates, like we assess our learners, our young people learners. How are you folks assessing the growth as far as language? Maybe it's language, also instructional strategies, and maybe are you assessing your instructors as it relates to their language development and maybe even teaching and instructional strategies? Anyone assessing their instructors?
I've been like, I'll visit the school on their days that they teach sometimes, just to observe them. Some of the teachers are proficient in fluent in their language. There's some that are like, they just like do body parts or, simple words. And then I'm trying to encourage them to use sentences. And then so I have one teacher, a language teacher that is fluent, and then I'll put another teacher with her in that class to help her and watch and observe, so that next year she'll be able to do it on her own, or maybe in a couple months she might feel comfortable to do it on her own, because a lot of our teachers are new to teaching.
Yeah.
And they're not used to doing the lesson plans or curriculum or any of that. They're just like, we're just here to speak. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, there's a way to teach. So that's why I put double them up kind of, and say, well, you go with her. She's fluent, watch what she does, her lesson plans, uses sentence strip, write the words out.
Yeah.
And so they're just kind of learning from each other, because the fluent teacher will say, hey, she came up with this idea and we were doing this today,
Yeah.
And so I think they're growing.
Yeah.
To me, they're growing by observing and learning words and learning how to use those words in sentences and stuff like that. And like I told them, you can use a book, Brown Bear, where you at, or whatever that book is.
Yeah.
I said, and you can change it into our language and use that. Right now, one of the teachers, she's pretty fluent, and she did hokey pokey in the Paiute language. So that's one of her fortes, is she learns songs like that. And like Duck Duck Goose Goose, the game.
Yeah.
She uses the words in Paiute, and she'll play that game with the kids. So these other teachers are, I encourage them every time, watch her, so that way when it comes time for you to teach, you can even use these same songs, you can use the same games, whatever, and just keep the language going like that.
Yeah.
Even life skills, like one of them was doing getting up in the morning. How do we prepare ourselves for school? Okay, we're going to get out of bed. We're going to go take a shower. We're going to put on our clothes. We're going to cook breakfast. We're going to eat breakfast. She was doing all these things for the morning. Then she did the lunch. Then she did the evening. Yeah. So I think that was a good idea, was just like to double them up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, Alana. I think you mentioned some really key professional development strategies. The observation is a great way to assess, what your teachers are doing, where they need help in. Also, pairing them with other, stronger teachers, and having them observe. That's a real native way of learning, right? It's through observation, and then taking that and then making it their own, which is a very native way of thinking and learning, and then through their doing it their own, it's actually what they call an authentic assessment, right? So you can go in and observe them like we did traditionally, right, to see if they're doing the task correctly. It's through that actual doing that you can assess. So really important strategies, and I think what it also has underlining it is a real native way of both learning, assessing, and showing performance of that learning. So awesome. Anybody else want to share maybe a different way, or maybe you're doing it the same way around assessing the growth of your instructors, or the people you expect to be using the language, not students?
I know the least amount in this area on the grant, and I hesitate to speak for Susan because it may be something that's well in place that I just don't know about yet.
Yeah.
My guess is that we are not assigning staff near as formally as students. Like in the class, she's going to have a rubric for kind of what the goals are for staff. But if I had to guess, I'd say we're just much less formal with it. It's more trying to be inclusive. But Susan, I could be speaking out of turn. Susan probably has a lot going on there that I'm not aware of yet.
Yeah. But she probably is doing, it's this sort of part of it is just natural, right? She's training them on the assessment and assessing them at the same time, probably.
When she, yeah, yes, when she meets with me, she knows,
Right.
you know, which teacher. She definitely knows the levels of the teacher. She could level them just like
Yeah.
we've formally done for students, just through her experiences. But I don't think we're formally doing that. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
I think with our school, as we begin to build build a program, because this is the first year this position was created, and I think as we move forward, you know, next school year we'll have you know, concrete professional developments where at the end we can have reflection sessions, or we might even be able to have in the next workshop or PD, hey, this was the skill we did last week.
Yeah.
How did you use it today? And using that language app that we want to get going by next school year,
Right.
one of the biggest things that our teachers really want to use the language. It's just that because the complexity of the sound systems, like a lot of our teachers can't say, you know, just that sound, or zzz, or, you know, there's some, you know, complex sound just in all native languages, but they do try their best. They really do. And, you know, they constantly, they, you know, as I go through the hallway, they'll say, "Yeah, hey, Mr. Berlin." I say, "Oh, buenos dias, bueno." And so, you know, we're conversing now. I feel like the staff's really getting comfortable and they're starting to use the language as much as they can.
Yeah.
So, but again, right now we don't have anything formally, but I'm gonna make sure to work on something. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think again, you know, you're sort of like it maybe not formal, but you're seeing the increase and even creating an environment around it's okay to try, you know, the language, and it's okay, you know, it's not bad to make a mistake. You know, and creating that open environment. I mean, even that you're assessing it by saying like somebody is actually saying hi to me in the hallway, which may not have occurred before, right? So yeah. Awesome. Awesome, you guys. Thanks again for sharing. It was all really really super informative. Let me see if I can actually, where's my cursor? Oh, here it is. Okay, let's move. So I want to take some time. Again, we're not going to be meeting until the next quarter. And so I want to be prepared for our next talking circle. So I wanted to take some time to really sort of dig into what would you like to maybe share or learn from each other and hear from each other. Any particular topic as it relates to your NAL grants and the work that you're doing around native language. Any thoughts? Alana, I heard you say about when you get Zoom up. Um, how are you doing? What's the barrier with the getting your Zoom going?
Well, right now we have to run it through the tribal council to get approved. And then one of the ladies said just put in a request to the tech department, the computer department, and she'll work on getting the Zoom up.
Okay. So it's administrative and getting it all through the right approval.
Yeah, and then we have a thing on where we can't do it really on social media if it's under the tribe.
Yeah.
But if we want to do it on our own, it has to be like after hours. And I thought about doing that because a lot of people like Facebook and doing it like on our little yard sale online, you know, that we have going here for for community, or we even have a Duck Valley public information page. And I thought about like just doing simple sentences on there, you know, talking simple, and then translate into English what I said. So that way, you know, kind of keeping it simple.
Yeah.
You know, beginners, learners, because some of our adults like they said, they never really had it in their homes
Mhm.
and stuff. And so I thought, well, that would work. I've seen other places have theirs online, like the Comanche Nation and
Yeah,
different places, but I don't know. It's not very often.
yeah,
But I know that the tribes have policies, and procedures in place that say we can't. There's certain, we're limited to the time and
yeah,
whatever. So everything will have to be after hours if I'm going to do that.
yeah. Okay. I was just thinking that if there was any, if it was on the technical side, last year we did a whole sort of range of distance learning trainings, and those are recorded, so you can go and look at. We did all, we did everything from how to like run a Zoom meeting to how to do virtual field trips. And so that's all on our the YouTube channel. You can go and sort of check out that training. So I was just gonna, if it was a technical, but sounds more like an admin.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought about like going to different areas after work and
mhm.
sitting, like by the lakes or
Yeah,
sitting by the mountains and name the mountain ranges,
yeah,
name the lakes and
yeah,
the fishes in the lakes, and just different things, different topics like plants, animals and
yeah.
stuff. I thought about doing that, and well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you do that, you might want to check out those videos just really quick. There's a virtual field trip one, because there is some planning and setup to do for that and things to think about. That
Okay,
might
what link is it under,
um
or could you
I'll
send
go
it to
look
me?
for, yeah, yeah. YouTube virtual field trip. Alana. Okay. The other thing is, I was wondering, like, do you folks want to like learn and share from each other of maybe assessments, language assessments, maybe, I seen Kevin nodding, saying maybe even like, maybe there's a piece of work that you are working on and you want to sort of see what other people are doing, you know, language scaffolding, um,
I would
and
like to see like how everybody does their cover sheets, like for the budgeting, for the
okay,
whatever, different stuff like that.
okay,
Like different steps, because I think if we each have an input and show what we're doing, then somebody might get an idea, say, oh, that's a
yeah,
good idea, kind of thing, and share
okay,
it that way.
okay. Any other ideas or thoughts or things like, I'd like to like, I don't know. Um, uh, I'm just, I go back to like sort of the scaffolding. I go back to sort of thinking about, you know, um, how do we, how do you select the vocabulary for what level? You know, those are all like really, they're definitely in the weeds, but they are really important questions, and they lead you to assessment, right? I mean,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah, I'd
so
like to know more about assessments. I mean, I did a simple one in April when I first started, but it was only like 140 people, and I thought, well, that's pretty good for
yeah,
our reservation.
yeah, yeah, it is.
And there was like maybe 2 or 3 elders that participated,
Hmm.
so it was kind of interesting.
Okay.
But like more I talk about it and more I get out there into the community, people are like, well, when are you going to start classes?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I
No.
think the great thing about assessment, again, I think, is that you get to show the impact that your program is making as it relates to native language and the value of native language, right, for learning. Um, and so it just makes your argument for you, or it can make your argument for you. So again, this is not an exhaustive list. If you have an idea that pops up in your head, you can go ahead and email that at oie@seiservices.com, and I will be checking that and make sure that we work that into this time. Again, because we're going to be meeting only 4 times this year, I want to make this time valuable to you. Of course, there will be some information getting, but I really want us to be able to get the most out of this time. And our time is coming to an end. Are there any questions or concerns? Everybody got the due dates again? Budget revision, November 17th to Donna, email to her. APR updates, October 27th to the OIE at SEI Services. We have upcoming events is October 28th is our office hours. Again, that's in between, now and when the reports are due. So please check that out. You don't have to it doesn't have to be just 2 office hours. You can sign up for a coaching session or also just email if you have any questions. Then here is our schedule of our talking circles. Our next one will be January 13th. So you want to make sure if you did the invite, you should have that on your calendar for the year. The other piece we're going to be webinar we're going to be doing is on data sharing agreements. And so there's been a lot of sort of discussion around how do we get information for, like let's say, your teachers that are working in schools that are doing some language instruction. This is a data sharing agreement that you could use to collect data from maybe your school district or individual schools or state. And then the other one is Native American Heritage Month celebration. That will be on November 9th. So those are upcoming events. Any questions or comments, concerns?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a language team that consists of like Boise State University and stuff. And I was wondering if I could include them on this kind of things, the talking circle and stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
That works.
The more the merrier.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes I think they feel left out.
Yeah. No need to anybody feel left out. we're about making sure the languages continue into the next, and so anybody who wants to, like in your team that wants to play along, that sounds like a plan to me.
Okay, so can we send you their email address so you can include them, or how
Sure.
does that work?
Yes, please do. You can send it to the OIE at seiservices.com. Yeah. Okay. So just to let you folks know, I know some of you may, if you have questions, some email Sarah directly. But what we really want to do is encourage you to email the OIE at seiservices.com. Because, yay, very soon, I'm so excited when I say this, Sarah will be out on maternity leave. And
my.
so, I know, right? Woo!
Yeah.
Can't wait. If you email her directly, she's probably going to be busy. So she won't be able to get to you. So if you want for a quick response, please make sure you're sending your inquiries and questions to the OIE at seiservices.com. And then when she comes back, then you can email her. I'm a little nervous, but she's working me into it. Those are big shoes to step into, definitely. But I want to make sure that she has a very peaceful and joyful maternity leave. So we want to just send all your inquiry to this email. And all your love to her and the baby when it comes to that time. Okay. And so we're going to be putting up to the poll. I hope this time was beneficial for you. In this poll, you'll be able to let me know. Again, we actually use this information to make our sessions better. So please take the time to complete that. It should be up on your screen now. And then just wrapping up, again, if you have any questions regarding your program, please contact Donna here at her email. She is your interim program officer. So all of your, again, your budget revision will be going to her. Any grant questions, you can send it to her, or you can email oie@seiservices.com. Your technical assistance team will get on it. If you are not on Twitter, if you are on Twitter, you might want to check out the OIE Indian Ed Twitter account. They are always posting the latest information and goings on as it relates to OIE, and also the larger landscape around Native education. And that's about it. Thank you guys again for your time. I really appreciate. Thank you for that great discussion and sharing. Again, talking circles. That's what it's about. And if I don't see you in between, I'll see you in January.